Oh my gosh, some days it's no fun sewing for yourself.
I've decided on this fabric. I know it's not completely springy, but I want this one. And I've decided to go for view E because of the longer sleeves, and I want to make it longer. So I'm going to make it long to about where her boots are, and I'm going to make it wider as well. I will have to iron before I can cut out. Okay, I've decided for the front and the back skirt, I'm literally just going to take the width of the fabric and cut 2. So that will leave me with that. And then I still have all of this left over for sleeves and for the rest of it. So I'm going to make it bigger. The front is quite wide, but I'm just going to use the width of this fabric. And what I've done is I've pinned it, and I've pinned it so it will touch that side. And then this is what is extra on the front. And the back will have a lot more extra. But otherwise, I'm using the pattern exactly as it is, and I'm just going to go all the way down. I want it a long one, a long dress. Okay, so I don't know why I keep on doing this to myself. I keep on picking plaids and stripes and squares, and you have to align the things. Okay, this is the side seam for the back. I'm just lining up my pattern markings before I cut the back so that I know that the two will align when I sew them. So you can see the pattern needs to move down a little bit to align with my front. This is the back pattern piece, and as you can see, it's quite a lot smaller than this panel, but I'm just going to make it the same size as the panel. I need to cut 2 of the back and 4 of the front, but I am going to use this for the lining because I don't want to match the plaids for the lining. And if you don't match it, then it might end up like this, where when you wear it, it all looks confused. So I have this viscose. I'm going to just iron it now, and I'm going to do the lining for the front and the back out of this. And the rest of this dress is cut out. The pockets are pinned onto the skirt, front and back. And for the bodice, I pinned the neckline. And then I also pinned the neckline for that dress, for the bodice for that dress. And over here I have the 2 sets of sleeves, and I need to do the gatherings on those. And then also the gatherings on these ones at the top. I went for an early morning walk, and I'm so glad I did because this wind is pumping outside. But that's okay because now I can sit and sew. So I have done the gathering stitches on the sleeves of that one and of this one. I am now sewing the pockets down on the side, and I'm going to do the gathering stitches on this as well. When I do gathers, I like to do 3 rows. Because if one break, then you're still okay. And also that gives you a more even gather. And this one is done, so now I need to do this one. I've also pinned all the backs and their linings together, so I can sew that next. But first, I want to put some interfacing around the necklines. I've just pinned it, so I will sew it, and then I will afterwards just put a small piece of interfacing just to keep the neckline from moving, and also just to give it a bit more stability. But this factory is going. You've got things everywhere. But sometimes when I do batch sewing, this is the way I do it. And I find I get quite a lot done like this. So as a seamstress through the years, there's a few things that I do not skip, even if I'm tempted. One of it is to do your understitching. You know, when you do a neckline, you have your facing and you have your fabric. And so you iron all of the pieces of fabric one direction towards the facing, and then you do a millimeter from the side and you just stitch it. That gives you a neckline where your facings do not pull out. Even if you're lining, the lining does not stick out, but it also gives a little bit of sturdiness around the neck. It's one of the things you do not skip because it's the difference between professional and homemade. Now it's back to the ironing board, and I'm going to iron all the necklines. Then I know my necklines are set, they're not going to stretch, and they are ready to put the shoulder seams together. I make sure I move my fabric so that it is correct. because you can iron in some pleats if you're not careful. And that's it. And then I also like to iron it on the wrong side, just to make sure that there's no pleats or unnecessary folds. On this one, I am going to do a flat seam, making sure that it's right sides together, and I am just going to pin it together, sew my seam allowance and iron it flat. I'm doing that like this because both of the textures or the structure of these two fabrics are the same, so they will behave the same either way. So I'm just going to pin it, sew it and iron it flat. And when I iron it, I'm just going to iron open the shoulder seams and let them be flat, and then fold it over and iron the neck. It's ironed, so I ironed these ones open and flat, like you can see there. Both of them are like that. And then the neck has its understitching. I am so happy with them lining up. I see there's a little bit there. I might just unpick that little bit and fix it. And on this side, I got it to line up, but this side didn't. I should have given it a seam down the middle to make sure the shoulders line up, but I'm just gonna live with this. And I'm very happy with it. I pinned the skirt to the bodice part, and I'm now going to sew. And remember, when you sew, you always sew on the smooth side, because the feeding dog then keeps the gathers together and you don't push it out while you sew. I like it. This is going to be so much fun to wear. Oh, and I love this fabric. It's really nice. My next step, let's put these sleeves on again. Some more gathers. I think I'm a bit tired of gathers, because after these gathers, I'll have to gather the sleeves and then put them onto their cuffs. And my other dress that's over there also have to gather the sleeves and put the cuffs on. But if we have to gather to make this dress, then that's what we're going to do. So let's keep going. So this is one of the things that makes me excited. To think, I started with 5 meters of fabric, and you look at this and it looks like something weird that you're not sure what it's going to be. But as soon as I put the side seams together, which will go there, it will form a dress. It's just amazing. This is part of the reason why we sew. It's that wonder of taking something flat and turning it into a 3D masterpiece. And sometimes that masterpiece is a disaster, but it's still part of the process. And I don't know about you, but for me, that makes me excited. I feel like a mathematician who figured out an unsolvable problem. My cotton is finished, but I had foresight and I winded up extra bobbins before I even started with this project. This is one of the ways how you can actually save time when you are sewing. Okay, I messed up. I used the wrong size. I never looked at the pattern sizing. And this is massive. This is supposed to be oversized, but I think this is a bit much. Oh my gosh. Some days it's no fun sewing for yourself. So I've got two choices. The one is to unpick everything, and this is fully lined, and to make it smaller, or to see if it fits for my friend who's bigger than me. And yeah, I might not have a nice check dress after all. The reality of sewing. You win some, you lose some. Okay, so this dress, that pattern is huge. I made the large, which is supposed to be a 16 to an 18. But it is massive. It actually fits my friend. And so I'm going to cut it and turn it into a top for her. And if I make this, I need to remember to make the medium. Let's talk about the frustration of sewing. Sometimes you make a dress, and then the dress is too big, and you have to turn it into a top for your friend because you're not willing to unpick and recut every piece. Sometimes you order fabric online, and when the fabric gets to you, you realize the 100% cotton advertisement was a lie, and when you look closer, you find it's 60% cotton and 40% polyester. And sometimes you get to the end of a sewing day and your disappointment outweighs anything else. And that's why you have to sometimes just call it a day. So I'm now at that point. I'm going to call it a day. It's early, it's 7 o'clock. I could sew at least another hour, but I'm not going to. Because my disappointment and frustration levels are just too high. I'm going to say goodbye now and good night. And I'll see you tomorrow with a better attitude. So I fitted this on my friend last night, and she said she'd rather have a top than a dress, and it fits her perfectly. So we're now going to do the elastics to put in the arms, and then we still need to do the hem on that. And it's the next morning, and my attitude's better. So let's get sewing. So I put the elastic, I put a pin in, and then I just zigzag over the pin. And that's the way I do my elastics. And then I just make my stitch length a bit longer. The zigzag is on 2.5. My stitch length is going to be on 3. And then let's go. And I pull it a little bit while I go. And when I get to this side, I turn it around and I go back. And I'm going to make the stitch length a bit shorter on 2. So, elastics are ready to put into the shirt sleeves. To put any elastics in the sleeves, I just pin it in 4 places. My elastic is loose so it can move as I go. And I start sewing and I just go right around. You can put a few more pins if you want to, but I find this works fine for me. Because the elastic is loose, I can fold the fabric and just sew. And the elastic, it will move as I go. And that's the way I put elastic in. And there's the sleeve. And now on where the seam is, I'm just going to sew it down to keep the elastic from moving all over the show. For the hem, I just did a 1 centimeter right around. And then a quick tip under the arms. When a pattern is cut like this, if you don't do little knips, it's going to pull when you have it on. So I cut them like this, and it's going to be an open seam, and I'm just going to zigzag down and up on all of them. It is a bit tedious, but this fabric, it frays a lot, so I'm just going to do that. If your fabric is like a cotton, maybe you can get away with it, but I don't like taking that chance. So I've done that side, and now I'm going to do this side. As you can see, it really is very fragile, or not fragile, but it's going to unravel, and those pieces may tear out if I don't secure them with zigzag. I am done with this top. I just need to put a label in. And this is my label. It's been with my brand for a long time. These are not the best labels, but that's what I have, and that's what's going in there for my friend. And then the last step is the iron. And because of doing those cuts under the arm and zigzagging it, look how nice that curve forms. So this top is finished. I love the sleeve. And my friend's going to love it as well. Part of me is glad it didn't fit me because I think she looks really lovely in that.